So, part 3 of my mother's spiritual journey and how it affected my life. So, my sister and I and my dad and my mom are on a jet airplane coming back to Washington State from New Orleans. So we had a really nice time. I enjoyed it. I wasn't scared this time of my dad coming. And when we went back to the house, my dad decided that in order to keep us kids safe, he would put us with my aunt. So we went to stay with my aunt, and my mom left within the week to go be with the people. So at that point, her religious experience was more important to her than her children. And so she actually left for a year. And so during that year, they spent a lot of time trying to help us be deprogrammed and to help us understand what brainwashing is, how we were brainwashed, and how we need to, release all of that. And of course, we're releasing it into being very strict Seventh-day Adventists, so which isn't much different. And the interesting thing is the main person that would sit around and talk to my friend and I and our siblings about brainwashing happens to be a narcissistic sociopath who later did some really terrible things with my friend's dad. So at one point, he threatened to take her life. So anyway, but he was the one that was trying to teach us how to not be hypnotized and brainwashed. So we began to walk away from, everything that we had been taught. And so I found that, I was wearing slacks and watching TV and reading, eating sugar, going to the regular school. That's when I went to the local Seventh-day Adventist school. It's like all the little things I just kind of let go. But I'm 11 going on 12. Yes, I was 11. No, 10 anyway, somewhere in there. It was when Mary Lou Retton won in the Olympics. I got to watch that because we had a TV at that time. We didn't normally have television and eat more typical food, but my dad was still vegetarian. Still pretty, strict Seventh-day Adventist. We go to church every week. So there was a difference, but not too much. Anyway, before my mother left me, she had given me $100 bill. And she told me if I ever got a chance to escape and to run to her, that she'd be in Texas. That's kind of all I knew. That's kind of a big place. Anyway, I had $100 bill, and I kept it the entire year she was gone, paper-clipped inside my underwear to make sure it was safe, and it was always with me in case I ever got an opportunity to run. So I guess my dad did a good job of taking care of me and my sister because I never had an opportunity to run. So I do remember that one time I wanted to run away from home during that time. And we lived on a huge property, 80 acres. So I ran to a different part of the property and spent the day there. And that was a very special day all by myself. And that was the day that I called to my soul family. At first I was thinking maybe it's my twin flame, but honestly, I'm not so sure that I have a twin flame in the way the people define that. I think I was calling to my soul family, asking them to come and save me and rescue me. That was a really beautiful experience. So as we look at our lives, eventually, my mother came back. And when she came back, she said to me, she said, God told me to return to my family. It was time to take care of my family. And I guess that was a good thing. And then she saw how I was living, that I was watching TV and I was eating sugar and I was wearing pants, and I don't think I was wearing jewelry because Adventists don't wear jewelry. But it's like I had kind of backslidden. And so her first comment to me was, she was very disappointed I hadn't kept the faith. At 11 years old, she was disappointed that I hadn't kept the faith. So that took about 6 months of therapy. Oh, yeah. But the cool thing is that I have, in the last 6 months, learned energy healing, and in 5 minutes I can release beliefs like that, beliefs that I'm no longer worthy, or that I'm inadequate in some way, and I can release that with energy healing in a matter of moments and move on in my life. So that is one of the reasons that I am a full-time energy healer now, because I can help others who have gone through the same kind of situation. So as you can imagine, there is a very big, huge gap between being a very strict offshoot Seventh-day Adventist, moving through staying a very strict Adventist, and then moving into non-Adventist and all the way to New Age. And the day that I said to my counselor, I am no longer a Christian, she said, you really need to think about that, because that is a huge brain shift to have gone through. And in my talk that I gave a little while ago about train up a child, I talk about how even as a very small child, I was taught to be a critical thinker and to be a free thinker. And so I think that is why I'm able to transition in my life to new places and to new understandings, because of the fluidity that I was given as a very small child. And so, like I said, we choose our families, we choose how we're raised and how things happen for us. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the connections between Seventh-day Adventism and New Age. So, follow your heart. So I feel that my mother followed her heart in her spiritual journey. And when I was a good Seventh-day Adventist, teaching full-time as a dentist at Loma Linda University, we would all get together and talk. I taught dentures. And so, 3 or 4 of us would get together that all taught dentures once a week. We'd have a little meeting. It was really fun. And they were all older men, and then it was me. And so we would all hang out and we would talk. And every time we would talk, we'd also talk just about what was going on. Well, at that time, they were having some rulings regarding gay marriage. And so they brought up the topic, and I instantly just went into why I believe so strongly in gay marriage. And that, marriage is a beautiful thing that is given to everyone. And that if people expect, gay people to stay, with one person, monogamous, they should allow them to get married. And so I very adamantly talked about how, I was in support of gay marriage because I believe that, everyone should have the right to choose to be monogamous and to choose to be in that type of relationship. And they all were sitting there looking at me, and they were like stunned because they were all anti-gay marriage. And that's, I think, one of the first times I realized that I was a little different than everyone else. Follow your heart. So, that's what we do now. We follow our heart. We follow our heart. And we don't judge other people for where they're at. We follow our heart where we need to be. So, like I said, I did learn how to be a people pleaser, so that's something I've had to unlearn. I think that being in a church that had a prophetess really made a difference for me, because I could so much easier to believe in miracles and magic. It's a prophetess, somebody other than the scriptures. So we're already looking at other texts. And also, she was a channeler. She had these visions, and she would channel the visions. I mean, every night she would have a dream and wake up and write the dream. She wrote her dreams. So she journaled her dreams. She was a channeler, and the things that she brought to the world were these very strict, dogmatic religious things. But you have to realize that's what's coming out of her head. And that is the spirit or the God that she's connecting to. So, and she's channeling this information. So I think it was much easier for me to see myself as channeler. And this is really cool. When I was listening to the book, The Journey of Souls, and it's talking about the time between lives, the soul's experience. This one soul was describing going to the afterlife and this beautiful temple, and the way the temple was, built, and the way the stones were and everything. It's exactly what John in Revelation and Ellen White in her visions described of heaven. So they were there. They were in non-physical, and they just described it the way that they saw it. And so again, to read in Journey of Souls something so close to what I had read as a child was really beautiful and fun. And it all has to do with perspective. She sees it as perspective, that there's this one place you can go and you have to be perfect in order to go there. Now, Seventh-day Adventists don't believe in an eternal soul. So they believe that the breath and the body come together, and those two together make the soul. And that when you die, the breath and the body separate, and the soul dies. And the body degenerates, and the breath goes back to God. And so then the breath and the body come back together at the resurrection, at the second coming of Christ. And so the Seventh-day Adventist, Advent is the advent or the return of Christ. So they're all about the return of Christ. And so, and heaven is our home. that there isn't a hell because there's nowhere for eternal souls to go to damnation. There isn't a hell, and that when Christ comes back the second time, that everyone will be resurrected, and all the people that are wicked will just burn up and die, and all the good people will go up into the clouds and go to heaven. So every church has their own way of looking at things and seeing things. But it took, after my sister passed away, I saw it as her body was in the ground and her, no eternal soul. So it's only been the last 2 or 3 years that she's been able to contact me and say, hey, I'm here. Once I started, I realized, oh, no, this is just a really tiny part of our experience. There's so much more. I think having the hypnosis for the regression really helped a lot. That's what I was talking about too. I had a hypnosis regression 2 different times and did see some of the in-between life. It was just absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. So I do want to do some more YouTubes talking about my regressions and some of the past lives. Let me know in the comments if you think that would be fun, if you'd like that as well. And so there's a couple more things. Oh, yes, I wanted to talk about the Akashic Records, or the records. So Seventh-day Adventists do believe that there are records in heaven, and that the good people that get resurrected, taken to heaven, spend 1,000 years going over the records and understanding why their friends and loved ones aren't there, and why they are there, and kind of what went on in the records. And so it's interesting that the Akashic Records are in that movement as well. So there are many more things that you can learn about the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and some of the correlations between that and some of the New Age ways of looking at things. And certainly Adventists believe in aliens living on other planets, alien races, and that we are the only alien race that sinned and has to go through the experience of salvation, and that all these other races are watching us. And that is, basically what I still believe as well. So there are so many beliefs that I didn't have to change, going from one religion to the other, from Seventh-day Adventist to New Age. So anyway, I thoroughly enjoy connecting with the archangels. I think that's my favorite part of my life today, is constantly connecting with especially Michael, and his protection, his guidance. All of that is so powerful. It's so amazing. All right, well, I think I'm going to finish this video at this point. Please subscribe and like if you would like to see more content. Comment below, let me know if there's something that you would like me to talk about more that we talked about here. And thank you for listening to my story. And remember, always keep a positive attitude, even in these difficult scenarios.